If you've ever felt so drawn to a place that you wanted to return again and again, you'll understand my addiction to a 140-million-year-old mountain, Babo Kivari, and its creator spirit, Li'itoi. Have you seen it? It's on the southwest horizon near Tucson. If you head out A'o to the west, you'll see it. It's 10 miles south of Kitt Peak. And you can see it from Tohono lands. You can see it from the Sea of Cortez on a clear day. You can see it from the Altar Valley. And you can see it from our living room and patio in northeast Tucson. My mountain odyssey began when I was about 6, wandering the woods and creeks or cricks of our farm, and spending many hours at our local Carnegie Library. I was bored with reading Snip, Snap, Snurr and See Dick and Jane Run, so I discovered a little closet filled with illustrated books which took me to other lands. Arabia, Africa, China. Sometimes the librarian would peek in, and I think she was afraid I was looking at pictures of naked people. Well, many years later, I entered another world, other world. Along came 5 different kinds of cancer between the ages 35 and 65. And the biggest, baddest, beastly one was in 2001. It required very strong treatment, and my chances of survival were not so good. My students wheeled me around the music department in my desk chair. My dear husband cooked scrambled eggs and red chard with onions through chemo. Maple fudge sustained me through radiation. My world of fatigue became very small. So I began to travel to other worlds again through books. And the first one was on Tohono culture and its sacred peak. After the 3rd reading, I found that mountain to be a source of strength and hope, and I survived. And still to this day, when I look at that mountain, I feel a warm rush of gratitude and joy for life. Well, it's 9 years later, and that was the last cancer, so I'm hoping the cancers are saying, we give up. Well, soon after reading the book about the mountain, in the mail came yet another membership plea from the Sierra Club. And I said, okay, I give up, here's your $30. Ever done that? Well, in the first Sierra magazine, the very first sentence of the very first service trip listed began, at the foot of the sacred Babo Kivari. And I was out of there. I'd have done anything to get near that mountain. So on to yet another world. Well, the night before that first trip, I am thinking, are you crazy and going against your doctor's advice? Well, after 3 great trips, feeling stronger after each one, removing barbed wire fence on Buenos Aires National Wildlife Refuge, living up in Brown Canyon right next to you-know-who, Babo. On that first drive up the bumpy Rocky Canyon Road as Babo grew larger and larger, I could hardly believe I was there. I could not get enough of that mountain. So, in 2009, my husband and I lived as refuge volunteers, caring for a beautiful historic ex-ranch house, now the Environmental Education Center, with an aging solar power system, only emergency radio for contact with the world. But we had a perk. The only radio station that would come in was NPR. When I first heard that we'd been accepted for that job, there was no fear this time, believe me. I shrieked and I jumped up and down like a 6-year-old. And Babo and Li'i Toi provided us in that canyon with gifts, surprises, and tricks. On our first night there, the crescent moon was so bright we couldn't look at it directly, not to mention the astonishing number of stars. I remember thinking, this must be what is meant by the dome of heaven. Unpacking, I discovered in a chest drawer a perfectly formed mouse nest of bright, multicolored yarn. And we'd been told to expect pack rats as big as chihuahuas. So, when we heard a racket on the back porch, of course we thought, giant pack rat. This critter had a body and a tail, each this long. Turned out to be a Mexican opossum feasting on peanut butter left in rat traps. Next, a mysterious sound. How? How? Our resident mountain lions calling across the canyon, we learned later. Next morning, we were awakened by the canyon wren, who became our alarm clock, so we get up in time for coffee with gorgeous sunrise over the Santa Ritas, 50 miles away. Well, normally the canyon is serene as well as beautiful, but Li'i Toi had bigger tricks in mind for us. Hey, you two, you're having too much fun down there. So, in January 2010, 14 inches of rain fell in 3 days. The windows rattled, the wind roared, our wind indicator blew away. But that night on Kidd Peak was recorded a 170 mile per hour wind gust. We got up in the morning and drilled holes in a dripping ceiling, and astounded, we looked up right into the sky through the holes. A large part of our roof had sailed away. 3 days later, we found it 400 yards away, down in a mesquite bosque, where it is going to stay. We bailed water for 2 days and nights. Those dripping sounds, after we had used every pot, pan, bowl, and bucket we could find to catch the drips, those sounds formed an otherworldly percussion ensemble that I called space music. So many xylophonic sounds and catchy rhythms, I can still hear that music. And it provided us, at least, with a momentary smile amid all our hard work. Well, Li'i Toi provided treasure as well as a trick after the storm. Waterfalls sparkled all over the canyon sides, and the rain provided an incredible wildflower display that spring. Well, Li'i Toi, I've decided, also has a great sense of humor. One day I was leading hikers up the canyon, and of course I was expounding so eloquently as to this pristine, wild canyon, so biodiverse, only native plants, few human visitors, when suddenly a hiker exclaimed, "What's that tiny object coming up over Babo Kivari?" Now this was 4,000 feet higher than we, and about 2 miles away. We said, hot air balloon, small plane. Today we probably would have guessed drone. Well, this object descended slowly, floating right down towards us. Would you believe it landed only 10 yards from us? It was a blue helium balloon with the words, "It's a boy!" Had it come from the adjoining Tohono O'odham lands, or even farther? Or was it Li Toi himself, who is said to disguise himself, come down off the mountain and play tricks on us? What do you think? Well, there are always adventures to be had in that canyon. And the minute I put on this refuge uniform with the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service volunteer badge, I feel strong and excited to enter into that other world of beautiful Brown Canyon with Babo and Li'i Toi looking on, planning more surprises and more tricks. Thank you.